America is a constitutional republic. It is not a democracy. And that's, terrific essay actually in a new textbook of Americanism on this exact point. When people talk about, well, what's America really about? Maybe you'll get like, well, it's about the Constitution, some if we're lucky. Others will say it's about kneeling or apple pie or anything else, something McDonald's. Maybe they might say, as you said, well, America's about democracy, but it's actually not. Specifically, democracy means majority rule. That is not what America is about at all. That's one of the benefits of America, and one of the great achievements of America is that this is the country that said it's not majority rule, that you have a right to your own life, liberty, pursuit of happiness that's not up to the whim of a vote. So no, even when we go to vote, Michele, I would be very, what's so frustrating now is this notion of not, we vote for who's going to rule us, not a real more important of why do we need to be ruled, or should we be ruled, or what's the right type of government, not who needs to make decisions on our behalf.
We were talking about this because I asked you before while we were still setting up, I was like, are you happy with the election results and this and that? And you said you were indifferent, if you don't mind my
Sure,
saying your
yeah,
answer.
no, I mean, we need, people say, well, this start, if you want change in this country, it does not happen at the ballot box. There's a great line, Ayn Rand has a great line actually, where she says that elections happen every month of the year except for November. Meaning that the real change doesn't happen in Washington. It doesn't happen in politics. It happens basically in college. It happens with young people. Because who is advising the politicians? Who's electing the politicians? The people who've integrated these basic ideas, who brought up always believing that I am my brother's keeper. And that's why, and I got a sidetrack, but why even the Republicans, the so-called defenders of free markets, are so against free markets. They grew up with, I believe in capitalism, but hey, this person needs health care, this person needs a job, and I am my brother's keeper. So true Americanism rejects all that whole cloth, and it starts with that education. And as I said, politics, it's too late. It doesn't change with politics. We're only going to elect people with the right ideas if we have the right ideas as a population. So we have a lot of education to do because people don't even know what the country's about. Haven't thought about it, haven't been asked to think about it.
So what is a constitutional republic? How is that different than a democracy that a lot of people think America is?
I would leave that question to a scholar, to a constitutional scholar, which I certainly am not. But America is unique in that it's not a majority vote. Everything isn't up for grabs in America, that you have inalienable rights, as was defined by the founders: life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. And these aren't up for a vote. It was a really novel thing, still is a really novel thing in the history of the world. So, it's not just a question of, if I can get the votes, I can push it through. But that's a lot of what American politics have become, and that's too bad. And that's why I think the book is so important.
I don't know if this was just something specific to the book, or this is said elsewhere too, but in regards to the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, in the book I was reading it as life, liberty, property, and pursuit of happiness.
Yes.
So I don't know, is that specific to the book, or is...
No, I believe that was actually initially in those founding words. And property was included. I believe it is. It's explained in more detail in the book, but yes, property wasn't included, and it makes sense because if you have the right to earn property, if you can't keep it, it's the idea of earning property and then keeping your own property, having the right to it, having the right to own it, to preserve it. That's really unique to America as well. So yes, property is a very important, and Ayn Rand is a wonderful quote, and one of her kind of great tenets is that, without property rights, no other rights are possible. So property rights are so integral, I believe, to what Americanism is, starting with your own body. Who owns you? Who do you belong to? Do you belong to your neighbor, to your point? Is your neighbor the country, the greater good? No, you are your own sovereign entity. And that's a pretty unique, radical idea.
So what does that mean exactly? Because I imagine it doesn't mean everyone has a right to be given a home.
Sure.
Or, be given property. So what does that mean exactly?
When you say right to property?
Yeah.
The right to earn and keep property, absolutely. When people say, well, the right to property, It's not the right, as you said, to a home, to any good from someone else, but the right to earn it, the right to go out and to trade with others to their benefit and to your own, based on your own skills and your own ability, and to keep the achievements that you've earned. And actually, Michele, too, to feel good about it. You know, oftentimes even the greatest capitalists, will say, well, I mean, Bill Gates is the greatest example. You know, when he made a lot of money with Microsoft, he was kind of a villain, monopolist. But when he started giving all the money away, oh, Bill Gates is a good guy. You know,
he's a philanthropist.
Yeah, it's like only when you give money away for some reason in America these days you're really. But we should be applauding people who earn it and create it and keep it for their own selfish benefit. That's a big part of it as well. You know, if you earn money but you're only considered moral and virtuous when you start giving it away, then that's it's. I feel sorry for the people who feel like that's important. You know, I mean, what made Bill Gates great isn't that he gave away billions of dollars, but that he created Microsoft. And every day we should be thanking him. So I respect that right, but he's like the president, he's a great example of successful business person who's not a great spokesman or advocate for capitalism.
Do you know who Ben Shapiro is?
Sure.
So he made a comparison once of, it was probably Steve Jobs, not Bill Gates, but it was probably the same. He was saying that in his opinion, as much as he admires Mother Teresa, he said he actually thinks Steve Jobs did more for poor people than Mother Teresa did.
Are you kidding? I mean, come on. It's not even...
Hearing that was kind of... I mean, your first reaction is like...
Well, Mother Teresa Mother Teresa is... Actually, I got booze at Hillside College. Hillsdale? Whatever the free market college is now. I got booze there because I said exactly that years ago.
Oh,
right?
really?
Yeah, because Mother Teresa is held up as that example of, we could all be like Mother Teresa because your life is better, wiping people's feet, giving up every value, living in squalor amongst the people that certainly doesn't help anyone. Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, these people have bettered our own lives. They've created the wealth that helps people get up out of the squalor, that helps people become better persons and improve their own lives. So, yeah, I mean, the fact that Mother Teresa is always held up as this, great example. And as I understand, I haven't read her biography, but as I understand it, she was a very unhappy person. She's a very, very unhappy person, and I'm not surprised. When you live in these collectivist societies, and collectivists, I think, there's always like a little bit of grumbling. Oh yeah, I am my brother's keeper, but geez, this guy keeps smoking, and this person keeps not taking care of themselves, and God, I want to live my own life. And that's that American spirit in there, a little bit, that selfish American spirit that says, my God, I'm 20 years old, 25 years old. If I'm lucky, I have 30 more years, 40 more years. I'm not going to waste a second of it, that I don't owe it to government. I don't owe it to the public, to society. That's one of the great things about America is that, you're not born with this debt. Well, I'm 13, now I've got to pay it off. No, you're free. So exciting, so revolutionary, even now.
You've said that you think that neither Republicans nor Democrats reflect true Americanism.
Yes.
Why do you say that?
Well, in what they do and what they say. I mean, the Democrats have been proudly collectivists that's kind of part of what they are. I mean, the Democrats really embrace racial politics, I think sexism in obvious ways. As I read about a bill, I believe, that was passed here in California requiring that companies have a female board member.
Did that pass?
Even if it was proposed, doesn't matter if it passed or not. I mean, like, what an unbelievable, so it's for I think many on the so-called left, it's always a bit about seeing you as what part of group or tribe you're part of. I mean, Americanism, true Americanism says that, whether you're transgender, man, black, this, that, whatever it is, every person is an individual who has the same rights. The so-called right, I believe, now has become equally as collectivist. And it's an embrace of religion. It's an embrace of nationalism. My country, as I said, right or wrong. And, they have used that philosophy to embrace, tariffs are probably the best example. They want to make you feel bad. well, not just feel bad, but they believe that for some reason, if you buy a Toblerone and not a Hershey, you're hurting America. If you buy a foreign, car, foreign, well, how could you do that? You owe it to the country. America first. America isn't about America first. It's about you, your life. And if you always wanted a BMW, you worked your whole life to finally make the money, and now, along comes the government and says, well, you need to help the country. Bullshit. America is about pursuing what you want, trading to get what you want. And the GOP now is just as nationalist, just as ugly, and just as collectivist. That's what I think makes the book so important, is that we need a refresher that America is about the individual, his own liberty, his own individuality, and his own pursuit of happiness.
Do you think, this is a question in the book, do you think that Americans or people in general should reject the idea of a universal government?
Yes, yeah, yes, Rand. Actually, I should point out one of the most exciting things about the book is that thanks to the Ayn Rand Institute, there's a tremendous amount of unpublished material from Ayn Rand specifically that's now only available for the first time. This is one of the questions that she was asked, should you believe in a world government? And actually, those of us who believe in trade, we're often accused these days of being globalists. It's one world government. It's just kind of another baseless straw man. But Rand was very much against the idea of a world government. She talked about it as essentially as checks and balances, that if something goes wrong in one country, we are men, none of us are there's no omnipotent, we're mortals. So if something goes wrong in one country, you can flee to another. And that's, I think, a pretty realistic idea, because frankly, we can see, time and time again, Venezuela is probably the best example. This was the breadbasket of South America. And now it's really become a living war zone, not because of a war, but because of government and because of collectivism.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching the episode. If you're interested in contributing to the conversation and supporting the show, there's 2 easy things you can do. 1, click subscribe, and 2, visit our Patreon page where you get exclusive access to the Exploring Minds community.